you don't know how people are going to react, and not everybody has to believe in it. Just because you do, again, doesn't mean you should push it on people. But if you're in the right place, in the right situation, and hopefully in the right world, which hopefully is getting a lot more accepting and enjoying of these things that we can do, then you can do a lot with it.
Welcome to Coaches on the Couch, the place where experts share their journey and inspire you to take action. My name is Pratishtha Bhalla and I will be your host for this show. Today we have with us David Oliver from England. He is a Reiki Master and Teacher, an NLP Practitioner, a psychic medium, tarot card reader, and a poet. And today he will be sharing with us his journey of being raised by a single parent, his own experiences of past life hypnotherapy, and a lot more. So make sure you stay with us till the end and subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell icon if you're on YouTube. If you're watching the podcast, make sure you leave us a comment on our social media handles so that we know that you are watching and you are liking, you are enjoying these episodes and you don't miss the updates. A very warm welcome, David, to Coaches on the Couch.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, as you said, I am qualified to teach and practice Reiki, which has been a massive life-changing experience, really, because it showed me a lot more about the lives that we can live beyond what we think are generally the normal things that we encounter. The neuro-linguistic programming I got interested in because I had a friend who wasn't interested in Reiki. I was very enthusiastic about it, but he was one of those people that wasn't really open to knowing about it. So that inspires me to look into other therapeutic methods that would still enable me to help people, but were a bit more within a logical kind of frame, if you like, that people could associate with. If they didn't have any interest or understanding of spiritual energy and those aspects of the Reiki and things like that. And the poetry and the psychic work kind of grew from that, really, from my experiences. I joined a meditation group originally for the point of learning to meditate and the practice that came with that, and then alongside that we'll introduce the ideas of understanding how the chakras work as ways to open up and connect to the finer energies, which included spiritual energy, and being able to then receive information from spirit and from specific people in spirit who would choose to use you as a channel to pass messages on to people that you were going to come across and meet. And then the poetry really grew from not being able to do any of that when we were so isolated a couple of years ago. Obviously, we weren't allowed to be around people, and I couldn't do any of the regular work that I've been doing. So I wanted inspiration to still find a way to give out some kind of positive energy, especially at that time when everybody needed it. So I was sat looking out my window. I had nothing else I could do. And I thought maybe I should write a poem. So I did. And then I kind of ummed and ahed about posting it on social media, because a lot of people could be quite negative on social media sites, and I didn't want to really expose myself to that. But I decided I would just do it and see what happened. And a few people reacted to it. And I liked the sensation of doing it and having that release of the energy. So I repeated it the day after. Then it became a regular habit until I found myself finding some kind of inspiration every day to write something. And then that led on to about a year later being asked when I was going to produce a book of my poetry. So I did that and enjoyed the experience of producing something tangible that, you know, represented all the work and the efforts I'd put in. And then since then, I've carried on writing every day or every other day. Sometimes I've written more than 2-3 poems a day. It depends on what inspires me. And I've also wanted to be able to use my voice to talk about things I'm interested in and perform my poetry, because I've always been a very supportive person. And an example of that is I used to play drums quite a lot. in various bands, and it's a great instrument to play. I found it very almost meditative because you're so involved in everything that you're doing, you know, it's around you. But you're not the person at the front being kind of heard in that way. And I wanted to understand what it's like to be a person at the forefront, literally vocalizing your thoughts and your ideas and having people react to that. So I've performed a couple of times in public at the last event I was, the Worcestershire Literary Festival. There was an opportunity for a 5-minute slot to join a group of poets. So I did that, and I told people it was only my second time of doing this, and they said, if you hadn't told us that, we would have never known, because you seem comfortable with it. And that's been a good point for me to learn, is that you may have fears and you may have doubts and worries about things, but if you prepare yourself as much as you can and just let the thing happen, then you can be quite surprised at what you can achieve and how quickly the time goes. You spend a lot of time thinking about it, but 5 minutes seemed like a couple of minutes in my head. It just went, and it wasn't rushed. It was calm and well presented. But I find that when you're enjoying what you're doing and you're kind of feeling free from the things that are holding you back or keeping you held down, time goes really quickly. But you can also get a lot more done in that time because you are being busy activating things and being proactive rather than procrastinating and sitting and dwelling on things that aren't really going to serve you well. So it's been a very holistic experience for me, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I love being creative, and I like the observation I've had of the literacy and the way that I use words and the different messages that I want to portray through them. Some of the things I write are quite spiritually related. Some of them are kind of short and snappy and just little kind of positive statements. I'm currently working on a collection of haikus because I find it an interesting challenge to write haikus in the format. And I've managed to write nearly 150 of those. So I'm planning on turning that into a separate project as well and expanding upon that. So yeah, all these little things that I felt kind of motivated to try and let happen as well, because that's been another thing that I've worked on hard, is letting things happen for myself instead of, again, doubting or finding a reason not to do that or procrastinating to the point where it's kind of lost its energy and the ball's stopped rolling. I've done this thing and I've done another thing and another thing, and now when I look back at the collection of poems and things and experiences I've had, it's quite vast, and I still remain humble in the fact that I don't go pushing it in people's faces, because, you know, people have a choice to pay attention to what they pay attention to. But I'm confident in presenting those things, and all of these experiences have led me to be comfortable and excited, enthusiastic about talking to you in this situation. So this experience again will be another thing that I'll be able to look back on and also review when I see the recordings and listen to them. And it'll be another point where I can look at myself and go, yeah, that's another thing that I've achieved and to be proud of. Because there's nothing wrong with being proud of the things that you do. People should be proud of the things that they do, because it, you know, there's a lot of things that can stop you achieving things. But I'm hoping that more people are realizing their skills. I think they are, especially the last couple of years. It's been obviously difficult, but I think it's given a lot of people the same kind of thing, where they've had time and space to sit and observe and think about what they want, and then have that kind of clarity, because they're not being kind of distracted by all the everyday stuff that they were worried about. You know, it's put things in a different perspective. And I think that I've noticed a lot of people are doing similar things to me. They're developing their art, they're developing their interest rather than their needs, if you like, and becoming much more proficient in the things that they do. There's so much amazing literature, there's some amazing artwork being produced at the moment by people all around the world, and you know, there's a lot of people vying for attention, especially because there's so many people doing these things. So it may not always be a lucrative career, But money isn't everything. It's nice to have money, but it's more about the expression of the person. And I'm seeing a lot of amazing expressions of people in all kinds of ways. And I like that side of things. I'm glad that something very good has come out of a lot of difficulties.
Thanks, David, for sharing with us your journey. And I was really like when you were mentioning about not procrastinating, letting go of your fears, and preparing and then letting it happen. That's how you started with your poetic journey. So, at those moments when we are procrastinating and there are fears, actually, if we are not from that energy healing background, as a simple person who has never experienced it, what is the first thing that they can do so that they can overcome those fears? Because those fears in our own head, I think it's not that simple to just let it go.
No, I think the first thing to do, if you want to start getting a understanding of the possibilities of the things that you can do, is to look into, I'd suggest looking into meditation to begin with, because a lot of people are like, oh, what is meditation? I don't quite understand it. It's like they feel it's something that they have to be able to do or they can't, but it is something that you can learn. And the general point of it is to understand that in our everyday life, even when we're relaxing, there's always something external kind of influencing us, whether it's watching TV or listening to music. It's always something that has to occupy our minds. And with meditation, the point is to take away as much of the noise that's going on in your head, and give a chance to your brain to understand that it can be quiet and be satisfied with being quiet. Because I think we're so used to having something to react to or work with, that we've got distracted from the fact that we can just stop and have no noise, have no external distractions, and calm the thoughts in our head to the point where people say you can almost pretty much think nothing. And you can pretty much get to that point, but people sometimes feel that if they can't do that, then they failed, and then the internal dialogue starts again, and it builds up and it distracts them from what they're trying to do. But simply focusing on your breathing, I mean, we breathe naturally anyway, it's an instinctual part of our survival. But if you can just stop and just focus on the sensation of inhaling and exhaling, that on its own will make a very clear difference in the general state of mind that you have. It brings the focus back to your body, because we know when we're ill, we know when we're injured, we know when we're tired, excited, upset, but we don't really stop and just pay attention to the basics of our bodily functions. I mean, even things such as your diet, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of people researching different diets for different people that will help them with various things. There's a huge focus on obviously being vegetarian or vegan and not eating meat, because of the simple fact that we forget that a piece of steak on a plate was once a cow. Some people just see it as food. In a way it is, but it was also a living, breathing thing itself, where we wouldn't wish death or pain upon any living thing generally. So just cleanly eating and cleanly living can also just help you feel better, because you don't have the associations that come with the factors that put that food on your plate. And then again, the meditation side of things helps with cleansing and puring the body with oxygen that we breathe in. We breathe quite not as much to the capacity that we could when we breathe naturally. But if you stop and just take a really good deep breath in, one thing you can do is actually expand your stomach muscles, and then actually make more room for your lungs to expand and take more oxygen in. And if you proactively do that just for a few minutes, you feel a substantial difference in your clarity of mind and your relaxation of your mind and your body. And so just focusing on that can highlight the importance of yourself, because people are wanting, especially these days, to gain attention. You know, there's a lot of people who are promoting things, or just themselves on social media, for example, wanting to look pretty and be considered as worthy. And a lot of it has to come from external validation, where if you can just sit and validate yourself and trust in yourself, it can make you just feel a lot better in general, makes you feel more grounded, makes you feel more present in the world that you live in, and also brings back the focus to the self, because a lot of people ask for advice from other people. We're always looking for the next big thing or the next health thing or whatever it is, and we're trusting other people to tell us what we should do and what we should be. But I think the one thing that we forget is that those people are just another person as well. And they have the same worries, the same insecurities and things, and they're looking for validation of other people. And your communication is great. Community is a great thing. But my point is that if people more just focused on themselves and what they could do, then they could be better for themselves and for the people that they're talking to as well. And that's what I've been doing a lot of. You know, I like to help people, because as you were saying, with me being from a single parent family, that was a major factor in the way that my personality was shaped, with regards to, I had support from my father who I lived with, but I had a lot of differences with him. Him and my brother were more cohesive in their activities that they undertook, and I wasn't so much. So I spent time either with my friends, or I spent quite a lot of time on my own, and I learned to enjoy my own company. I liked being creative. I liked being artistic with drawing, writing, reading, learning things, going out and exploring nature. And I was never alone to the point where I was antisocial, but like I said, I enjoyed the time I had on by myself. And I learned to become quite a good listener. I noticed that as I grew up, when I would be sat somewhere just in the city where I lived in Worcester, if I was just sitting and relaxing, enjoying just being there, and many times someone would just come and sit next to me, a complete stranger, and without really introducing themselves, within a few minutes, I would know quite a lot about their life and what they've been through. And when I was younger, I didn't really have much experience I could draw on that I felt could help people. But I've also realized that just having someone to talk to may have been enough for them to get what they wanted. And they would come and talk to me. I'd, open up to them a bit, and we'd end up kind of having quite deep conversations about interesting subjects. And then they'd get up and leave, and that'd be it. I'd never see them again. And I do wonder where some of them are. And I don't know if they think about me and what happened then. But yeah, it was a unique situation, I feel. And then as I grew up and kind of understood my place in the world and understood that this was a strength that I had, that people felt comfortable to open up to me and look to me for advice and help, that was something that I could turn into more of a substantial skill. And I kind of fell into the Reiki side of things by finding a shop in Worcester that offered it. And I just walked into the shop because it intrigued me. It was the first time I'd seen a really nice, well-presented spiritual shop, because a lot of them are quite dark and dingy and just full of stuff, which is very interesting, but not that inviting, where this one had nice shelving with massive crystals on it. It looked beautiful. So I found myself walking into that shop, and the lady on the counter, she obviously wanted to get customers for the person practicing Reiki. So that's the first thing she said to me was, do you want to try it? And without even stopping to think about it, I said yes. So I paid my money. I walked into the room, was invited to lay down on the couch, felt him do the work, said my goodbyes, said bye to the shopkeeper, walked outside, stood there for a minute to kind of gather my thoughts. And the good thing was there wasn't that many thoughts there. My head felt so clean and just present, and my body felt very solid and very grounded, and I felt much better than I ever had before. And I took value in that because no one had told me what to expect or what to feel or think, but I felt and thought all these things myself and enjoyed it, and then thought, sorry, there's an ambulance going past. I just wanted to keep it quiet so you can sort out. But yeah, I walked into the shop, I had the Reiki, and I was intrigued about how much it made a difference in me in a relatively short space of time. But I decided to follow it. So I went in the shop again a few days later, and the lady there told me that I could learn how to practice Reiki. So I took her up on the opportunity. I took the number for the person teaching, got in contact with them, and then not too long after, I went on the first attunement course with her. And the thing that really kind of shocked me and surprised me in a happy way was after we'd done the attunement process, I was working on a lady, we were put in pairs to practice, and my hands got naturally drawn towards her shoulders. And after a few seconds, my hands got really warm, and there was so much energy being drawn from my hands towards her body that the air between it was dense. I don't know if you see when you get two magnets with the same pole and you try and push them together and there's that resistance. It's kind of soft, but it's definitely there. That's what happened with my hands in the back. It was bouncing on the air. I pushed it down to not too far from her back, and as I relaxed my arm, my hand literally bounced up. And then I looked at it and thought, I did it again just to make sure. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It kind of showed me the power of what was able to happen with this. And then I left after the weekend of doing the training feeling amazing for having now not just experienced having the healing on myself, but knowing that I could do it myself. And again, it showed me how amazing life can be, and just how much we don't know about ourselves. And people are becoming more aware of these things, and it is growing in popularity now. And I'm very thankful that I'm living in this lifetime where these things have become more developed, more accepted, more spoke about, nationally and internationally. Around the world, people are having these experiences, and there's people with experience like myself who feel that, I assume there are many other people that are happy to share their experiences, to let people know who might be going through similar things, that it is a, within the terms, normal thing to do. And because a lot of people, when they have spiritual experiences and openings up or different ways of thinking, can be, I suppose, quite worried, because if it's different to what they're normally used to or other people around them are used to, then they may feel isolated or even frightened by what they can do. And again, the meditation is a good introduction to that, because that shows you how you can control yourself, and that you can let yourself hear things maybe within your mind that you might not have done, and then pay attention to them and then work out where you want to go with them. It may be a bit unnerving. There may be some things that come up that can be quite disturbing, but the thing I've learned is, even if they are difficult to pay attention to or be aware of, at least once you are aware of them, then you can choose how you act upon it rather than being confused by it and stuck. And that's what I felt has given me the freedom to move on, because I've explored these things. I've had things come up that, especially recently, that I didn't even really fully consider, but when they came up, it made sense to me, and I reacted to it by going, right, well, now I know that, where can I take it? What can I do to heal anything that needs healing, or what lessons can be learned that I can apply to further situations, either to help myself or advise other people that I recognize are going through the same thing. So that's been my main point, is turning these things that have been challenging into tools that I can use to overcome those challenges and be rid of them and be able to move on to better things.
Wow, David, it seems like you're reading my mind, because even before I'm asking a question, like I'm getting the exact answer. So when I was about to ask you about your childhood, and you were actually talking about it, and then we moved on to Reiki and a lot of other things that you have shared. Thank you so much for that. And yes, Reiki, I'm very curious on that because I also learned Reiki, but I never
Hmm.
practiced it because it is means I experience it as a very high energy zone. But a lot of people
Yeah.
still don't believe in Reiki, or they think it's some negative thing. So how do you
Mm.
explain to them about this high energy field, and while you are keeping yourself safe, how is it happening?
By keeping yourself safe, energetically, um, thing that people, I feel I should explain, Reiki is translates to life spirit, and I understand it and agree with the explanation that it is that spark of energy that, the tingles you get when you're excited, for example, that is a rush of energy going through you. It's those moments of freedom, especially again with meditation, when you are just feeling the situation you're in for what it is, and you're feeling those emotions and getting those reactions to it. Reiki exists within everything. The spirit of life exists within everything. People are always going, well, how can it be? Why does life exist? Where did it come from? And we see it generally as in a scientific term, there has to be in our mind a reaction to something, a beginning of something that creates a next step, and then a next step, and a next step, and there's a linear kind of logic to things. In our lives, we are born, we live our lives, and then we pass away, and that is how we understand it. But we need to understand that Reiki does not adhere to the rules and the logic that we've created to put structure into our reality. So, I mean, for example, I know that I could intentionally set out to connect my energy with yours right now, and I would be able to send that energy to you, and I would hope that you would be able to feel that reacting with you. Most people would be like, well, that's impossible, but I've done it. I've worked with people around the world, and they've reacted and felt what I've done with them, and had insights into their energy, into their lives, which has come along with a mediumship, because it's a similar thing. It's just different levels of vibration. But to keep safe, because there are people who and entities of energy that can have a negative effect upon you, it is a very important thing to. It's like wearing a seatbelt in a car. You're not expecting to crash, but if you do, then at least you've got a better chance of surviving. And it's the same kind of thing that I try and apply to doing energy work. Is you're not necessarily going to have anything bad happen to you, but if it does, then at least you have a chance of deflecting it away from yourself and keeping yourself safe. So one way that I've been taught is to, with connecting with the breath again, to imagine you're creating like a golden, almost like an egg shape around your body. So when on the exhale, you imagine from the bottom of your feet going up your back to the top of your head, like a quarter of a golden egg shape, like a layer. And then as you exhale, it goes down the front. And then you do that 7 times, and that connects to the 7 chakras, which I will expand upon in a second. So you do the 7 breaths in and out that way, then again from the around the sides, and the more you do it, the more you practice it, and the more that you embellish the um, desire to have this protection, you eventually, if you become sensitive enough to, you can feel it. It feels lovely. It feels nice and warm and comfortable, like you could just sit in it and just kind of rest, because you just feel safe and content. And the intention is the main thing. Thinking things, people don't seem to realize that thoughts have power, and it makes sense to you, because if we desire something, or if we wish bad upon something, or we think a negative thought, it can have a knock-on effect, which you might not realize until we're looking for it. But if you do start to recognize it, then you'll see the repercussions of the things that you do. It's the same with energy work. A thought is an electrical signal in your brain, and as we know, electricity has power. So the Reiki side of it, I feel it's a big ball of powerful energy that is sat there waiting to be called upon if you need to. And when you're attuned to it, which is like you've tuned your radio station into that vibration to hear it and feel it, you can feel it come into your body and through you to the person you're working on. And those thoughts and intentions, I feel, do play a part in the work that you're doing, because the Reiki on its own is kind of, it's neutral, but I feel that when it comes into us and into our thoughts and our intentions, then that guides it to its final place it's going to end up. Like I said, when I was working on that lady, I felt that I had to have that experience for me to understand what I was doing with it and why it worked, and that was a very important thing for me. But also from the protection side, it's more to, when you're doing that kind of work, allow the work to happen more, to be safe, and also to be able to focus on it rather than potentially have to deal with something else that you don't want to at the time, because it's not what you've intently begun the practice to do. And then when it comes to generally being safe as a person, I think it's also choosing who you speak to, because like I said, I feel that we're living in a time where the things I'm talking about are more acceptable and paid attention to, but there are always some places in the world and some people you might come across that will consider you as potentially having something wrong with you or being mentally unwell, because claiming to be able to receive energy from an outside source and put through yourself to a person to heal can sound a bit out there to some people. So I think, again, pick who you talk about. I mean, be proud of what you do, but kind of make sure it's an appropriate thing. I had an experience earlier. This kind of relates more to the mediumship side of things. I was working closely with a person, and we've been very formal in the work because of the situation, but we've kind of worked with each other for a few days now, so we're becoming more comfortable with each other. And she was sat down watching a video on her phone while she had some quiet time, and she told me about something to do with it. And I think because she'd opened up and sent that intention of allowing me to know more than she'd kind of had done before, I felt an energy connection with her, and I saw a member of her family who's in spirit, and I knew that how they were related to them. I knew why that connection was there. I knew a bit more about this person's life as in like the pet that they had, and I kind of wanted to say something to the person I was working with, because I felt that, normally when you get things like that, there's a need for you to pass that information on because it's been chosen to be given to you. But at the same time, I didn't want her to think I was unwell. I didn't want her to get scared or upset, even because if I was bringing up people who passed away, I didn't know how she was going to react. So for a couple of hours throughout the day, I had it in the back of my mind. I kind of felt like I needed to choose the right moment to decide if I should tell her or not. And then eventually I just thought, I'm just going to say it. And, I made sure that she was in a comfortable place where she didn't have anything to focus on. But I said to her, if I told you I did mediumship, would you think I'm crazy? Because I thought, it might make her laugh, or she might go, yes, and then I would just cut it off. But she laughed, she smiled about it, and I could tell she was like, almost knew where it was leading. I don't know how, but I just got that impression. And then when she said, yeah, that's fine, and I told her what I got and the association, and she could accept it, and it wasn't a problem, and we just got on with the day. But at least I'd pass that on. But again, it's sometimes good to ask and be sure that if you get things like that, because you don't know how people are going to react, and not everybody has to believe in it. Just because you do, again, doesn't mean you should push it on people. But if you're in the right place, in the right situation, and hopefully in the right world, which hopefully is getting a lot more accepting and enjoying of these things that we can do, then you can do a lot with it. I mean, obviously I would encourage people to learn it, because I love to teach people it, not simply from a business point of view, but I actually do love attuning people to Reiki, and then seeing them have the kind of same experience as I did, where they realize the energy that's coming out and they just look at it and they're just like amazed. They're, even though I'm just acting as a channel for that energy to create that situation, I can't help but be really happy and satisfied by seeing that happen with other people because of my involvement in it. And yeah, it just creates joy and happiness. And I think, obviously, I would never recommend people to not follow medical instruction for the treatments they need. But if people can have access to Reiki or any kind of energy healing, then if it feels comfortable and it feels right, I would encourage it just for the experience, because you never know what might happen. You might just take and leave it and go, okay, that was nice, or it might completely change your perspective on things, like it did with me, and lead you on to do things that you obviously would have never come across before. And also with the other side of things, with the neuro-linguistic programming, the NLP, that can have just as much of a profound effect on the way that you think about things, because the general logic with the NLP is that these things that do upset you, or do cause you anxiety or trauma, and have a emotive response, whether it's panic or shut down or wanting to run away, it shows you that you can still feel these things and think about them, but you are able to handle them in a better way. You feel more in control of it, so therefore it doesn't overwhelm you. So you can still know that it exists, but not let it have any more of a negative effect than it's already had on you. You can change your perspective on things, and like, it all seems to me that it all ties together. If you put yourself into these situations where you can have these experiences, then it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it after. But at least you've tried it, and at least you have an idea of how you feel about it. And again, it might lead you to something that is really beneficial for you that you might not have never known before. And if it did, then, it's all the better, really, isn't it? Because this life obviously is about the basics of living, but there are so many fantastic things that exist in the world. We have history of all the different monuments that have been built, with the pyramids to, the theories about Atlantis, for example, and, the Colosseums that still stand. These are, massive, grand things that we do build large things, but everything seems to be very much about the digital world at the moment. It makes sense because of the benefits it provides us, but I also feel that people need to remember to focus on going, having experiences outside, meeting people. Obviously, you have to be safe, but as much as you can, go and explore things, go and see things, and enrich your life with experiences that are there for the taking, if you just decide that you want to go and try them. Because I feel it's been beneficial for me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, David, that we need to experience it to know if it is working or not, and every person will have their own experience, their own opinion. So for sure, I'll be sharing your links for if anybody would like to experience Reiki, NLP, or they want to understand these healing modalities, they can surely connect with you. Thank you so much for sharing so much information with us. Anything towards the end that you would like to share? Maybe some tips, 3 tips for with the audience, so that they can get rid of their fears and start living their life fully.
Maybe if you want to try meditation, then try that. And if it doesn't first feel like it's working, then keep trying it, because with anything, it does take practice to really become established at it and kind of learn the integration of it in your life. But if you're not interested in doing things that way, then a basic thing that people, I feel, can do is sit and write. If you're able to, if you have a pen and a paper, write a list of things that you want for yourself. And don't worry about feeling like you're being selfish, because there's nothing wrong with looking after yourself. I know a lot of people get concerned. They think, well, looking after yourself isn't always seen as a positive thing, but I feel it's an essential part of living, because you have to know what you want. before you can really do anything about it. So sit and write a list of the things that you have in your life, the things that you want more of, the things that you want less of, and then explore how you can get to those situations where you can have more of what you want and less of what you don't want. And if it means that you have to have conversations with people that may be difficult to have because you feel like you owe them something, or whether you're concerned about upsetting them, then obviously don't go out of your way to upset somebody, but think the best way to present that information. If you can't have a conversation with because it's too awkward or too difficult for you to express yourself that way, then write them a letter. Because writing a letter, it's a way you can put your expression down without having to react to what they say. And hopefully if they read it, then you have their full attention, because they're reading your writing and paying attention to what you've said. And they may find it easier to do that because there's no situation around that conversation, if you like, to be had that can be reacted to. So it might be easier because the person can read it in privacy, react to it privately, and then potentially actually lead on to having a conversation. Now when they've understood what it is that you want to tell them, then you can find a more constructive way of moving forward. Because with conversation, because emotions involved, you sometimes have arguments with people that you had no intention of having an argument with, but for some reason things get tense and tempers get frayed, and it evolves into something that comes completely out of nowhere, it seems, and you're both sat there kind of feeling upset or angry, and then you regret it. And that's my point, is try and create things that aren't going to create regret, because that is a big problem. Is people jump into things, people get too emotional, either fall out, or to the extreme become physically violent with someone. You've seen it before, people flare up from just a bit of disagreement to people throwing punches like that. And I think that's one thing that can help be controlled. Not everybody's going to do that, but you can potentially stop that becoming an option if you do it in a controlled way. Like I said, writing a letter, let the person go away, let them read it, react to it in the way they want to, and then decide how they want to act upon it. So yeah, I think just understand that you can control things a lot more for yourself. You don't necessarily have to rebel against the society you live in or the rules and regulations that you live under, but within those situations, there's a lot more that we can do if we just allow ourselves to. So that'd be my final point, is if you're not harming yourself or harming anybody else, or putting yourself in a situation where your life could be imposed upon by people who don't like what you're doing, then allow yourself to do those things. If you feel like being artistic and drawing, then pick up a pencil and draw. If you feel like writing, pick up a pen or your phone or whatever tools you have and write, and just see where it goes, because that's what I did. Like I said, I sat there and pondered upon it, but I decided to just do it. I had no idea where it was going to lead to, but as I've explained here, it's led on to things that have been way beyond what I desired, and given me much more than I thought possible. So that's why I think people should try to do more of. Express yourselves, be artistic, craft, paint, learn to be a speaker. If you have a story, come and join this podcast and share your story, because these opportunities are out there now, and they're there for the taking. So if they're there and you feel you want to and you can do, then take them and enjoy the experience. Try, enjoy being present in what you're doing, not to the point where you're unaware of everything else, but just enjoy being in these moments of happiness and positivity, because everybody needs as much of that as they can, especially at the moment, don't they? So yeah, take advantage of it and enjoy it.
So I'll just summarize the tips. The first you said was meditate, and if you are not able to keep trying, then you gave a very interesting tip. Write your emotions, and if you are angry at someone, write it down. The thing that was going in my mind at that time was, oh yes, many times the fight becomes the argument becomes a fight because of the tonality or the way the things are spoken. So maybe by writing it can be a good option. So all the viewers out there, try it out and let us know in the comment box if this one worked specifically. And then you mentioned that it's okay to be selfish, control yourself, you cannot control the world. And of course, in this podcast, let us know in the comment box what you liked about it, what was your major insight from today's session, because we are bringing in experts every single week to help you take action, not so that you're not thinking that things are not going to happen. When David, who has experienced a difficult childhood, he can do it, you can too. And of course, I'll be sharing all your links, David, in the comment box. I hope the viewers, they are watching it, they are liking it, and they're commenting. So I'll keep you posted if we have any questions, and David will answer all your questions. Please, if you have any queries, write it in the comment box, and me and David will answer it. Thank you so much, David, for your time and this lovely conversation. And thank you everyone for watching, staying till the end. If you are staying till the end, write in the comment box and write your reviews so that we know that this session was useful, you're enjoying the podcast, and we'll keep bringing in more experts. Thank you, have a great day, keep smiling and keep shining. It's me, Pratishtha.